Great.
Knowledge is now so extensive.
Right. So fill in any gaps that I leave in there.
Right. Okay, we are live. Hi, Josh. Thanks for coming on the show this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, you're a believer in sea level rise, right, and climate change?
Right. Sea levels are rising. It's well documented. And as sea levels are rising, it's posing threats to the infrastructure, and people can see that currently. But there are other events.
Wait.
Yeah.
So how much is it rising, and why is that something we should be concerned about? It's only like millimeters or inches, isn't it?
Right. So if you look at it on like a year-to-year, day-to-day scale, you might not notice it. But if we were to go down to the coast right now and put our feet in the sand and wait 100 years, our feet would be covered. We would be all the way up to our waist in that seawater that was just at our feet 100 years ago. So it's not necessarily just about today, it's about the future as well.
And so this sounds bad enough, but you have an angle on it which is even worse.
Right, so there stands to be secondary impacts of this sea level rise, such as contamination, which exists along a lot of the world's coasts, because that's where boats can take the chemicals. Industry has long been associated with that.
What sort of contamination?
Like poisons. Arsenic, for instance, is one that's very important and poses a threat in lots of areas of the world.
Wait, there's arsenic along the coasts?
Where? Absolutely. So chemical industry, ore processing, tanning have all left a legacy of arsenic in the soil, because the soil has the ability to hold on to it once it gets into the soil, but only under certain conditions, the conditions that exist right now. If sea levels rise and change those conditions, that arsenic that's held on might be released by those soil particles. And
might be.
Right, we don't know yet. And so that's what I look at, is trying to understand, is it going to change it in a way that will be harmful to human health, or will it be a non-threat? But we don't understand and we don't know, and that the plausibility of a threat existing is something that we need to be mindful of.
So the arsenic would go into the ocean?
Right, it could go into the ocean, it could get into...
And then it just gets diluted
and then it gets taken up by the fish that we might eat. It could not only go into the ocean, but it also go into the groundwater, into drinking water. It could migrate upward into soil, and so when it floods and the kids go out and play in that flood water, they could be directly interacting with that arsenic.
So you're at the stage of trying to find out whether this is a threat rather than positing that it is, right?
Right. Well, we know that arsenic is a threat.
Yes,
it's the mass poisoning, the largest mass poisoning in the history of the world has happened in South and Southeast Asia because of arsenic. But we don't know if that threat might be heightened by sea level rise and the changing climate.
And you're trying to find out?
That's right. And that's my job, is to figure out how much of a threat it poses to you and to me.
Okay, well, let's hope it doesn't pose much of a threat.
Right, amen to that.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And we're clear.